And here we are once again, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Living Hope Today study. Today, we're at the end. Well, you remember at the beginning of Kings, First Kings, King David is aging. He's about to pass away. The issue of who's going to succeed him comes up. There's a power struggle. All of a sudden, Solomon is the king, and Solomon starts off very well. He asks the Lord to give him wisdom. The Lord blesses him in multiple ways. But then Solomon starts going downhill. He makes choices that are going to lead him out of God's presence into a pagan world of idolatry and right smack dab into the bullseye of God's judgment. And as the kingdom goes on from there, we see it split between King Rehoboam and King Jeroboam, the north and the south. We see just total devastation. Occasionally there's a good king, but it seems like things just continue to slide down the hill, get worse and worse and worse until now today. We are literally at the end of the book of 2 Kings. And God has had enough. The northern kingdom has already been exiled to Assyria. Those 10 tribes will never really be reformed in the promised land throughout history until, you might say, modern times. There are Jewish people in those areas now, but I mean, we're talking millennia. All right, the southern kingdom has continued to go on for a few hundred years since the exile of the northern kingdom, but God says, look, it's too much. I'm going to kick you out of the land I promised you. Let me show it to you. Here we are in 2 Kings 25. So in the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, remember that Zedekiah was the uncle of the former king. This is the name Nebuchadnezzar gave him, and he's ruled for 9 years. He has decided that he is going to rebel against Babylon. He's not going to pay them anymore. Well, here we go. On the 10th day of the 10th month, pretty specific timing here, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, marched against Jerusalem with his whole army. Had you been there in those days, I think that would be a terrifying sentence, because Nebuchadnezzar is super powerful. He encamped outside the city and built siege works all around it. The city was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. So for 2 years, nobody in or out. What happens to the food supply? Well, people begin starving to death. By the 9th day of the 4th month, of the famine in the city had become so severe that there was no food for the people to eat. Understand again, Nebuchadnezzar's doing this out of his own selfish motivation to gain more power and to bring more people into subjugation under him. But all the while, God is underneath here, moving the pieces. God is inspiring this as an act of judgment against his own people. Then the city wall was broken through, and the whole army fled at night through the gate between the two walls near the king's garden. Though the Babylonians were surrounding the city, they fled toward Arabah. We haven't heard about any prayer meeting. We haven't heard about any fasting. We haven't heard about any call for God's help. No, we just hear that the enemy is winning and the army is running away. But the Babylonian army pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his soldiers were separated from him and scattered. So now Zedekiah has been found, and now we see that he was captured. He was taken to the king of Babylon at Riblah, where sentence was pronounced on him. Oh, wow. So now we're going to watch this terrible sequence in Judah's history. They killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. So the last thing he's going to see is the death of his sons. And when your sons die, your line stops. So we also understand that the line of kings through Zedekiah is now over. Then they put out Zedekiah's eyes. They bound him with bronze shackles and they took him to Babylon. So now he's a blind captive. heading to Babylon under the control of the empire of Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. And on the 7th day of the 5th month in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard, an official of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. So now there's a commander in Jerusalem. He set fire to the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. So now, in God's judgment, the commander of the Babylonian army has come to burn it down. Every important building he burned down. The whole Babylonian army under the commander of the imperial guard broke down the walls around Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, the commander of the guard, carried into exile the people who remained in the city, along with the rest of the populace and those who had gone over to the king of Babylon. But the commander left behind some of the poorest people to work the vineyards and fields. So all the power brokers are in exile or killed, but we'll leave these poor people around to make sure that the grapes are growing and we have some olives and we can still get a crop out of the surrounding land. Just think about the heart of God. This was supposed to be a land for his people where they dwelt in his presence, where they lived in bounty, where they just had everything they needed and the blessing of God would keep pouring out on them. But through their own choices, they end up in 2 Kings 25, where there is now total desecration. And now we're going to hear about what these pagans did to the temple of God. The Babylonians broke up the bronze pillars, the movable stands, and the bronze sea that were at the temple of the Lord. And they carried the bronze to Babylon. They also took away the pots, shovels, wick trimmers, dishes, and all the bronze articles used in the temple service. The commander of the imperial guard took away the censers and sprinkling bowls, all that were made of pure gold or silver, the bronze from the 2 pillars, the sea and movable stands which Solomon had made for the temple of the Lord was more than could be weighed. Each pillar was 27 feet high. The bronze capital on top of one pillar was 4.5 feet high and was decorated with a network and pomegranates of bronze all around. The other pillar with its network was similar. Do you remember in the first part of 1 Kings where Solomon builds the temple of the Lord, how ornate, how beautiful, what a tremendously glorious structure it was, not just because of its ornamentation, but because the presence of God would dwell there among his people. And now we see through sin, that is going to be completely destroyed. The commander of the guard took as prisoners Seraiah, the chief priest, Zephaniah, the priest, next in rank, and the 3 doorkeepers. So now the leadership of the temple is also wiped out. Of those still in the city, he took the officer in charge of the fighting men and 5 royal advisors. He also took the secretary who was chief officer in charge of conscripting the people of the land, and 60 of his men who were found in the city. Nebuzaradan, the commander, took them all and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. There at Riblah in the land of Hamath, the king had them executed. God is allowing Nebuchadnezzar total control. God is not intervening. God is not saving. God is not bringing defeat to the enemy because of the outcry of his people. Nope. There's none of that here. Instead, total destruction and desecration. So Judah went into captivity away from her land. 25:21. That is a very sad, sad line in the history of God's people. Off we go. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, to be over the people he had left behind in Judah. So Gedaliah is now not necessarily the king, but he's in charge. When all the army officers and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah as governor, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Johanan, son of Kareah, Sariah, son of Tahumeth, the Netophathite, Jahazaniah, the son of Mahakathite, of the Mahakathite and their men. Here you go. Gedaliah took an oath to reassure them and their men. What does he say to them? He says, hey, don't be afraid of the Babylonian officials, he said. Settle down in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it'll go well with you. All right, so Babylon's already destroyed the whole place. They're not going to kill us too. They left us behind to take care of things, so just do your job. And they're going to let us live and eat and be here. Just do your job. Serve the foreign king and his kingdom. In the 7th month, however, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, who was of royal blood, came with 10 men, and assassinated Gedaliah. So now there's a power struggle even among the poor remnant that remains in Jerusalem, and also the men of Judah and the Babylonians who were with him at Mizpah. Okay. Bloodshed. At this, all the people from the least to the greatest, together with the army officers, fled to Egypt for fear of the Babylonians. So Babylon is so powerful, the only thing we can do is run. In the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the year, listen to this name, Evil Merodach became king of Babylon. So he apparently succeeds Nebuchadnezzar. He released Jehoiachin from prison. So now remember, he's been in captivity since he was hauled out of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, and now he's released from prison on the 27th day of the 12th month. Now watch this. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat of honor higher than those of the other kings who were with him in Babylon. So all of a sudden, the last appointed king of the southern kingdom is released from captivity in Babylon and brought to the king's table. So Jehoiachin put aside his prison clothes, and for the rest of his life he ate regularly at the king's table. Day by day the king gave Jehoiachin a regular allowance as long as he lived. So the end of the book, we end 2 Kings with just a sliver of hope. Because now there's just a little bit of flex in Babylon. We're still in captivity. Jerusalem's in ashes. All the temple has been desecrated and basically destroyed. And now there's a new king in Babylon that wants to be nice to the old king of Judah. That's where it ends. Okay, well, before we go today, I just want you to see, just to refresh you, you remember the northern kingdom. These were the kings of the northern kingdom, almost all except Jehu, and he was a really violent guy, shed a lot of blood, but almost all the kings are spoken of as having done evil before the Lord. They went into exile in 722 BC at the hand of the Assyrians, and they never returned. The northern 10 tribes exiled to Assyria, that's it. The southern kingdom, okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kings out of the 20 listed that serve the Lord. But nonetheless, the wickedness is so overwhelming, particularly the wickedness of Manasseh, who shed so much blood in Jerusalem, that God decided not to suspend his judgment because the wickedness overwhelmed the land. All right, now they go into exile in 586 BC. There's only 2 tribes, but they're exiled to Babylon. Okay, so one nation of Israel goes to Assyria, one goes to Babylon. These people will return. But we'll have to get deeper into the book to see that happen. We'll start on 1 Chronicles next time. Again, a lot of these stories will be given added details through the book of 1 Chronicles, but just notice how evil and how worthy of judgment the people of Israel have become in the book of 1st and 2nd Kings. We're going to ask the Lord to help us avoid their mistakes and live the way we should today. I pray God blesses you, church. Serve him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.